Essay number 88, Why We Reject Positive Thinking. You've tried positive thinking, haven't you? You've stood in front of the mirror saying affirmations. You've written gratitude lists. You've tried to think positive when everything was falling apart. And it felt like bullshit, like lying to yourself, like putting a smiley face sticker on a dumpster fire. So you gave up. You decided positive thinking was for naive people, for people who don't understand how the world really works, for people who haven't experienced real pain. And now, you're part of the vast majority of people who roll their eyes at self-help, who dismiss positive psychology as fluff, who think anyone talking about the power of positive thinking is either selling something or stupid. But here's what's actually happening. You're not too smart for positive thinking. You're not too realistic. You're not too experienced. You're scared of it. Let me explain why your brain is literally wired to reject positivity and why that's keeping you stuck in patterns that are destroying your life. The first reason we reject positive thinking is that we've been programmed to believe that negativity equals intelligence. Think about it. Who did you think was cool in high school? The kids who didn't care, the ones who were unimpressed by everything, the ones who rolled their eyes at enthusiasm, the ones who thought everything was stupid. We learned early that caring is embarrassing, that enthusiasm is childish, that optimism is for people who don't understand how the world works. We've created this bizarre cultural equation where negativity equals depth, where pessimism equals intelligence, where criticism equals sophistication. The person who tears apart the movie is seen as smarter than the person who enjoyed it. The person who finds problems is seen as more valuable than the person who finds solutions. The person who expects the worst is seen as more realistic than the person who hopes for the best. But here's the thing, negativity isn't intelligence, it's laziness. It's infinitely easier to destroy than to create. It's infinitely easier to find problems than solutions. It's infinitely easier to expect failure than to work for success. When you choose negativity, you're not being smart. You're taking the easy way out. You're choosing the path that requires no vulnerability, no risk, no effort. Because if you expect the worst, you can never be disappointed, right? If you never hope, you never have to feel the pain of hope being crushed. If you never try, you never have to feel the shame of failure. Negativity isn't wisdom, it's armor, and that armor is so heavy it's crushing you. The second reason we reject positive thinking is more insidious. We're constantly, subconsciously proving our negative beliefs right. Your brain has this thing called confirmation bias. It means you notice evidence that supports what you already believe and ignore evidence that contradicts it. If you believe people are selfish, you'll notice every selfish act and overlook every generous one. If you believe you're unlucky, you'll remember every bad break and forget every time things worked out. If you believe life is suffering, you'll focus on every pain and dismiss every joy. But here's where it gets really dark. You're not just noticing evidence of your negative beliefs, you're actively creating it. When you believe you're not good enough, you sabotage opportunities that would prove otherwise. When you believe people will leave you, you push them away before they can. When you believe you'll fail, you don't really try, ensuring you do. You're not discovering that life is negative. You're making it negative. You're creating the reality you're afraid of, then using it as evidence that you were right to be afraid. It's a perfect self-perpetuating prison. And the worst part? You think you're being realistic. You think you're seeing clearly. You think everyone else is deluded and you're the only one who gets it. But you're not seeing reality. You're seeing your beliefs projected onto reality. You're living in a horror movie you're directing, acting in, and watching, all while insisting it's a documentary. The third reason we reject positive thinking is perhaps the most profound. We're addicted to negativity because we don't understand it. Humans are meaning-making machines. We need to understand things. We need reasons, explanations, purposes, and when we can't understand something, we become obsessed with it. Pain doesn't make sense. Suffering doesn't make sense. Bad things happening to good people doesn't make sense. And because we can't understand it, we can't look away from it. It's like a puzzle we can't solve, so we keep staring at it. We keep turning it over in our minds. We keep feeding it our attention, our energy, our life force. Happiness, on the other hand, joy, love, we think we understand those. They're simple, they're boring, they don't require analysis or explanation, so we dismiss them. We take them for granted. We barely notice them when they show up. We spend hours analyzing why someone hurt us, but no time analyzing why someone loved us. We obsess over our failures, but forget our successes. We can describe our trauma in detail, but can't remember what made us laugh yesterday. We're giving all our attention to what hurts us and none to what heals us. We're studying the disease and ignoring the cure. We're so fascinated by darkness that we've forgotten what light looks like. But here's what happens when you try to shift from negative to positive thinking. Your brain rebels. It's not just that positive thinking feels fake. It's that your entire identity is built on negativity. Your whole worldview depends on things being bad. Your relationships are based on shared complaints. Your self-concept requires you to be struggling. Who would you be if you weren't suffering? If you weren't struggling? If you weren't fighting against something? You've built your entire personality around your problems. Your whole story is about what's wrong, and positive thinking threatens to take that away from you. So your brain fights it. It tells you positive thinking is stupid. It tells you you're lying to yourself. It tells you that you're betraying your truth by trying to think differently. This is the angry disbelief phase. This is where most people give up. They try positive thinking for a day, their brain rebels, and they say, "See, I knew it wouldn't work." But that rebellion isn't proof that positive thinking doesn't work. It's proof that it's starting to. Your negative patterns are fighting for their survival. They know that if you keep going, they'll lose their power over you. Here's what nobody tells you about positive thinking. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's not about ignoring problems. It's not about fake smiling through pain. Real positive thinking is about breaking the addiction to negativity. It's about questioning the assumption that expecting the worst makes you smart. It's about noticing that you've been creating the reality you're afraid of. It's about realizing that you've been rejecting positive thinking not because it doesn't work, but because it would require you to change everything about how you see yourself and the world. And that's terrifying. It's terrifying to consider that maybe life isn't as bad as you thought, that maybe you're not as broken as you believed, that maybe the story you've been telling yourself about why you can't be happy is just that, a story. It's terrifying to realize that if positive thinking works, then you've been choosing to suffer, that you've been complicit in your own misery, that you could have been happier this whole time. But here's the thing, that terror is the price of freedom. The anger you feel when someone suggests positive thinking, that's your negative patterns defending themselves. The eye roll when you hear about gratitude, that's your cynicism protecting itself. The dismissal of self-help as fluff, that's your fear of change speaking. You're not rejecting positive thinking because you're too smart for it. You're rejecting it because you know on some level that if you really committed to it, everything would have to change. Your identity would have to change. Your relationships would have to change. Your whole worldview would have to change. And change is terrifying. Staying negative feels safer. At least you know what to expect. At least you're never disappointed. At least you never have to be vulnerable. But safety isn't living. Expecting the worst isn't wisdom. And protecting yourself from disappointment is also protecting yourself from joy. The question isn't whether positive thinking works. The question is whether you're brave enough to let it work. Whether you're willing to get through that initial phase of angry disbelief. Whether you're ready to question the negative beliefs you've been reinforcing for years. Because on the other side of that resistance is a completely different life, one where you're not constantly preparing for disaster, one where you're not addicted to analyzing pain, one where you're not proving your worst fears right. It's a life where you create positive reality as easily as you've been creating negative reality, where you notice evidence of good as readily as you've been noticing evidence of bad, where you're as fascinated by joy as you've been by suffering. That life is available to you. But first, you have to stop rejecting the very thing that could get you there. Positive thinking isn't naive. You are for believing that negativity is wisdom. Positive thinking isn't unrealistic. You are for thinking that expecting the worst prepares you for it. Positive thinking isn't fluff. Your resistance to it is. The question is, are you ready to admit that? Are you ready to consider that maybe, just maybe, you've been wrong about positive thinking? Or are you going to keep choosing the safety of negativity, the comfort of cynicism, the familiarity of fear? The choice is yours, but choose consciously, because whether you realize it or not, you're already choosing. And right now, you're choosing to reject the very thing that could save you. Is that really the choice you want to keep making?